I'd like to take a couple minutes and just talk about horizontal and vertical integration into emergency management. Now, I think when you hear this and you see this, you're going to say, "Wow, that makes sense." No big deal. I probably should have realized that. But I thought it'd be good just to give you a few slides to give you some ideas of what we're talking about. And really, what we're saying is that when a municipality, when an individual, or when a state needs help to handle something, they have some options. And some of them are really to go horizontally to other individuals, your neighbors, other towns to other communities for assistance, and also other states to other states. And that really, if you look at the definition, would be horizontal integration. Vertical integration would be when if I personally am impacted by a disaster and I need assistance, and all my neighbors are impacted, where am I going to go? I'm going to go up. So where do I go? I go to my town. When I go to the town, if they need help, where are they going to go vertically? They're going to go to the state. And if the state needs help vertically, they're going to go to the feds. But what we're saying in this unit is it's extremely important that we as individuals, our municipality, the state, all maintain vertical and horizontal integration. So horizontal integration, strong relationship across local groups. I'm thinking in my own community, we have Boy Scouts, we have Girl Scouts, we have all different types of groups, nonprofits, that can really help us. We've got the Rotary Club, we've got Kiwanis, all the Chamber of Commerce, all places we can go to. So just for a couple seconds, think about who's in your community. Do you have Boy Scouts, Rotary? Do you have any churches? They're tremendous assets for reaching out to people. Baseball leagues, basketball, Girl Scouts, colleges. Some communities have colleges. The students are always willing to get involved. Colleges like being involved with a local community because it makes their image look a little bit better. And neighborhood groups. Here in my town, we have a river that floods quite regularly, and so there is a Farm River Homeowners Group. Maybe there's business groups, Business Networking International, maybe meeting in your town, or the Chamber of Commerce. So just think about it. Who's in your community? Who would you turn to and look within your community? And now we're talking about horizontally. Only things that are, within my community that I may be able to turn for. So horizontal, the facilitation of policy, dialogue, and negotiation identifies local needs. It has to be open, and you would be amazed if you're open to other people's ideas. Some of the innovative solutions that come out of people that aren't even connected to the situation are really amazing. I'm sure you've heard the story, but I remember the story where a tractor-trailer truck was stuck under a bridge, and all these engineers were trying to figure out how they were going to get this trailer truck out from underneath the bridge. And up comes a little boy holding on to his father's hand, and he's maybe like 6 or 7, and the little boy says to his father, "Daddy, why don't they just let the air out of the tires?" So you have to be open. You really don't know where ideas are going to come from and how innovative they may be. And you have to have a high level cooperation. Everybody needs to be at the table. If we had poor horizontal integration, think about feelings of resentment, downward spiraling, backlash, failure to include. It's like you're going to talk about debris management in your community, and you've decided that you're going to store all this debris on the football field. But yet, you didn't talk to the local gridiron club, and when they show up, even though it's in the middle of a disaster, and yes, you're probably right, that, the need of the greater is more important than the need of just one group, but if they show up and they're not involved in the decision, you're going to have a lot of backlash. But yet, if you included them in it and they understood that that was one of the few options you had, you'd be amazed at the cooperation you would get. We also talk about vertical integration. We need strong connections to organizational and social networks of local institutions. Within your community, what do you have that work with your government or work with your government? In Connecticut, we have these council of governments. There's 7 of them located around the state, and they work very closely with their municipalities. They actually receive federal grants, state grants, and they share that money with the local governments. If you don't participate, guess what? You're probably not going to get any aid into your community. So who does your community connect with? Take a couple minutes. Do you work with businesses in your town? Do you work with other types of government? Do you think your municipality works with a regional municipality or a county? Here in my home state, there are no counties. But in the rest of the country, counties are very, very strong. And does it go up even higher than that? But look at that center picture. Don't just think about government. Organizations can help as well. I'll give you an example. The picture's Coca-Cola, obviously. But do you know what Budweiser beer does when there's a large disaster and they need to help out? They stop making beer, hard to believe, and they start canning water. And they ship water. Yes, it's in a can. Yes, it says water, compliments of Budweiser beer, or Budweiser Anheuser-Busch, and they provide that water, sorry. They provide the water to everyone. Think about getting free water in your community, what that's going to save you. So when you think about vertical integration, now we're looking up and down, and before we were looking sideways. Don't be afraid to look at government and the private sector. So when we have vertical integration, it increases the power base. If I have a problem and I reach up to the county or I reach up to the state, it's very possible that maybe somebody up there knows an answer or has an easy solution to solve the problem. But if I have weak vertical integration, guess what? I'm probably not going to call anybody at the state or the county level. I'm not going to ask for any assistance because in some ways we say, hey, I know it all. I don't need that. And now you're going to be struggling to answer some questions that may have some very easy solution. So having that vertical integration in place, having good relationships both up and down the ladder, no matter where you are on that ladder, is extremely important. Vertical and horizontal integration topology, there's type 1 communities, type 2, type 3, and type 4, and we're gonna look at them in a second here. Type 1 have strong horizontal and vertical integration. They are most likely to recover quicker. So if you have good relationships with your sister cities and towns, and you have great relationships going up and down the ladder, you're going to recover much quicker. And this would be a type 1 community. It could be a local community, it could be a county organization, or a state. Even if a state has good relationship with its neighboring partners and a good relationship with the feds, they're going to recover quicker for their state as well. Type 2, strong horizontal. I know all my neighbors very well, but maybe I don't trust the state, or I say, that state, they never really add much anyway. So I have weak vertical. Obviously, it's going to hurt me, and I'm going to be I'm going to find out that I'm going to need to depend on the state and the federal level, and I'm going to be meeting these people firsthand at a disaster. That's not the way you want to work with people, is to meet them firsthand at a disaster. You want to meet them ahead, before the disaster, so that you know each other. The next is type 3 communities. These communities don't know their neighbors very well. And that is, let's say I'm the fire department of town X, and next door to me is town Y. And I don't even know what they have for resources. I don't know what type of apparatus they have. I don't know if they have boats. I don't know anything about them. Because I really don't want to know anything about them because I think I'm okay. So I have weak horizontal integration. Now I have a flood in my community. I need boats. I need vehicles that can drive through water and rescue people. If I don't know what my neighbors have, I can't ask for aid. They're probably sitting there saying, what's wrong with that guy? Why doesn't he call up and ask us? We'd be glad to go and help him. But since you don't know, you're not going to ask because you're not really sure what they have. Connections to the state and federal agencies can help, but keep this in mind. If you go to a neighboring community, the commute time to get to your community may be 10 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe an hour. Call for the state, it may be 12, 18, 24 hours before the state can respond. Call to the federal agencies, it may take those federal agencies 3 to 4 days to respond. So I ask you, who do you want to respond to your emergency? Would you want someone that can be there in 10 minutes, or do you want someone that can be there in 3 to 4 days? Now, in type 4 communities, this is like where you do not want to be. This is the worst case scenario, where the community doesn't know their neighbors and doesn't know any state agencies or personnel at all. They really keep everything to themselves. They don't invite anybody to the table. This community is the one that's going to be least equipped to handle an emergency. Most likely, I would guess and say, the police chief doesn't attend State Police Chiefs Association meetings, nor does the fire chief. Public Works probably doesn't know what the neighbors have. And now you're hit with a major disaster like an ice storm or any other type of disaster, and you need help. Who do I call? I don't even know the number for the state to call. The state has no 911 number, nor does the county. They have numbers to reach them or email, but if you don't know who it is, how are you going to get there? So type 4 is definitely where we do not want to be as a community, or as an individual, or as a state. I would say there are no states that are type 4. I'm sure there are plenty of type 4 communities. So it'll be interesting to see as you go through the exercises that are coming up next, where do you think your community fits? What type? So finally, the last slide, very simply, horizontal and vertical integration, as you might imagine by just watching these few slides, significantly affects recovery. If I'm locals, and I need my local neighbors around me, and I also need the state. If I'm a state, I need my neighboring states, and there actually is a system for states to share information and equipment state to state, and also to request aid from the federal. You'll notice there's no connection from local to federal. The only way locals can get to the federal government is through a state agency. The federal government does not want to handle 169 towns in Connecticut reaching out to them, nor do they want to reach 1,300 communities in Pennsylvania reaching to the federal level. They want to work with one state. The state can work with a county system, and the counties work with the local individuals. So there's a natural progression when we talk about vertical integration. Federal money alone does not guarantee success. I mean, we can dump a ton of federal money into a community, but if that community doesn't use the money appropriately, doesn't have the process in place to spend the money, the money is basically worthless. And most disasters, believe it or not, do not receive federal aid. Very, very few receive federal aid, and that's because they need a presidential declaration. If you want to have effective recovery, you need coordination with your local partners, town to town. You need coordination with your state or county if you have a county system, and then the county to the state, and then, of course, the state level to the federal level. So horizontal, vertical integration I cannot imagine being a type 4 community in today's world, the way things happen. I really would prefer to be a type 1 community rather than a type 4, and I'm sure you would rather live in a type 1 community as well. But hopefully this helps you. There's an exercise coming up, and hopefully that'll help you understand what we're looking for in that exercise. But I'm sure you would have picked it up anyway, but this might help a little bit. Good luck.